Hey everybody, welcome back to another box office report. Hope you guys been enjoying the content channel as of late. I don't know if this video will be coming out before Happy Gilmore 2's review. I did promise that I would do them back to back, so we'll see. I'll try to watch it tonight, maybe. I don't know. I'm just preparing for 2 days worth of a swell coming into the city, so just kind of want to be in the right mindset for that. Um, but in the event that that video does not come out, I will be posting this instead, just to give something of just to hold off until we get to Happy Gilmore 2. But yeah, we're back for another box office report. July has already passed. We're well into August now. So now we got to recap July and see what happened there. So, as we always do before we begin these reports, I like to give you guys an overview of how I measure box office. So, of course, if it's a single digit budget, we do the 2 times ratio. If it is a double digit, we do 2.5. And if it's triple digit, we do 3 times. Now, typically, I will also, more so nowadays, because I'm trying to be more considerate, um, I will also allow the bare minimums to also exist. So you will be seeing bare minimums also within these discussions. And bare minimums in my book is just doing 2 times its budget. So, but these specific measurements that you're seeing are the marks of what I believe these companies want these specific kinds of investments to do, like the kind of thresholds they need to hit to be considered successful. So, bare minimum, they all have to do roughly around 2 times, but depending on the the investment itself, there are uh, there are thresholds and standards, for each kind of investment, and these are the ones that I believe that they are. So, um, now I also include any publicly known marketing expenses or other related expenses. Now, if that information is not available, I'm just judging purely on the production itself, or by what is basically out there. So hopefully that's all clear. Hopefully it'll be made even more clear as we go through the discussion. But let's get into it. There were a handful of releases in July, some notable releases, but um, yeah, another down month. Really, another down month. But we'll get into it and we'll see where things are. So let's get into it. So the first film that we're going to discuss that opened in July was, of course, Jurassic World Rebirth. This came out on July 2nd, 2025, distributed, of course, by Universal Pictures. And so far, depending on what information you believe, because if this month was also defined by anything, it was discrepancy. Because a lot of information about production and just investments overall, it's a little bit uh, colored, a little bit mysterious in terms of what information we should believe or not. So, um, but judging by what I've read, um, the production can be as low as 180 or as high as 250. Marketing, I know, is at least 100. So putting that all together, we have an investment as low as 280, as high as 350, and if we're just times that by three, as a break-even point, the film will need to make roughly around 840 million or 1.05 billion dollars in order to be considered successful. Now, just bare minimum, if we're just considering those numbers in terms of an investment, the film will need to make, if it's 280, if we're to believe it's 280 million dollars as an investment, it would need to do bare minimum 560 million dollars, and if it's as high as 350, it would have to do at least 700 million in order to just become profitable. So, so if we're to believe that, obviously it has surpassed that bare minimum number. It's yet to reach the higher marks. So at this point, I think that it will probably arrive at that 840 number. So I think that we can call this a success, but it is, believe, a disappointment for the company because of past installments in this franchise, specifically the last Jurassic Park trilogy, Jurassic World trilogy, all those movies made $1 billion a piece. So when you're becoming below that number, I don't think the company is going to be particularly happy. Um, so, so I think they're a little disappointed, even though it will end up becoming successful at the end of the day, and it's already basically become profitable. It definitely is not what I believe the company wanted this to do. I think that they would have liked this movie to have reached that $1 billion mark, but just didn't have the stronger legs, just didn't have strong reception going for it either. So, and usually that's not an issue, because the other Jurassic World films weren't received as widely. They weren't like critically acclaimed or whatever like that. But I think it kind of also shows the state of Jurassic Park a little bit. Just people are just kind of, it seems, are not as the interest is starting to wane a little bit. So. So yeah, at the end of the day, it will prove to be successful, but I don't think that it's going to be. I don't think the company is incredibly happy by the performance that it's done, at least by judging by past movies that are in the series. So, all right, going from that, going into the next week, we had Superman. So, Superman, of course, the starting point of a brand new universe, the brand new point for DC, critical point for the company as well, because this is where they, again, start off their universe, rebooting it once again. This came out on July 11th, 2025, of course, distributed through Warner Brothers, and so far, not been doing all that great. So far, it has grossed $553.2 million. Had a production of at least 225 million. Marketing got as high as 125. So investment overall is sitting at least $350 million. And if we were to times that by three, the break-even point, or at least the point of where this film should be hitting, for company standard, uh, it is looking at $1.05 billion. Bare minimum, the movie would have to do at least $700 million. Um, I don't know if it's going to hit that bare minimum. At this point, I really don't know. We're about 2 or 3, I think, yeah, 3 weeks out now from the film being released, so it's already gotten. It's everyone's gotten to see it at this point. Now it's pretty much just repeats in smaller countries, smaller areas. Getting a release of it. I I don't know. I really don't think it's going to get to those marks. And James Gunn saying what he was saying, like, oh, the film doesn't have to do $700 million. It's like, of course it does. I think he's squarely just talking about production. We're just talking about that 225 number. Then yeah, fine, the movie's done well enough, but that's not considering marketing. That's not considering other factors that are involved with this. So bare minimum, the movie does have to do 700 million, and I don't think it's going to hit those marks. I think that at best we're probably going to see maybe 650 at this point. I think that's where it's probably heading, and that's not a good thing. Like Man of Steel, it's pretty much hitting Man of Steel's numbers, and Man of Steel, as we talked about, was not a massive success for the company. That's why they went ahead and did Batman vs Superman instead, because they wanted to saddle Batman with Superman and tried to make more money there, and they did. They did. Still wasn't, the marks they needed it to hit, because that film was a heavier investment, I think, than this was. But that's why you never saw Man of Steel 2, because Man of Steel was a very, very minor success. And I think that this might be seen the same exact way, but I think that the expectations, as I laid out, I think are more in line with Batman vs Superman, where this is the starting point of a brand new universe, and they need this to prove to be very, very well. And I don't think that 700 million is going to really cut it for them. I think that they would want this to be a $1 billion hit, and clearly that's not going to be the case. Um, but yeah, that's why you've been hearing things about a Wonder Woman film being fast tracked. That's why you've been hearing the Batman and stuff like that, because I just don't think the company is confident in the trajectory of the series right now, and I don't blame them, because you see things like Supergirl and Clayface that are the next films out, and it's like you need more notable IPs out there, to drum up interest. And I said before, I just don't think Superman was the best place to start off this universe. I think you really needed to do a Batman or a Wonder Woman, some other franchises that have pulled in bigger numbers compared to what Superman's done. Because Superman has the highest it's ever done was Man of Steel, and that was like about 600 million something. So I don't think it's gonna get to those numbers. I don't at this point. I really don't think it's gonna hit that bare minimum 700 million. So it's a bit unfortunate. It's it's just, I think, a bit of a some misunderstandings in terms of just popularity of characters, and just general trajectory, just what they're planning out. I just don't think that James Gunn's viewing this more in a creative sense and not a financial sense, and I think that there needs to be a split within those two mindsets. Because I think it's financially going to suffer, and clearly it has as a result. So, so all right, let's move on from that. So the next film that we're going to discuss is I Know What You Did Last Summer. This was released on July 18th, distributed through Sony, I believe. Yeah, Sony. How did this do? Pretty darn well. This has grossed $59.1 million so far. Had a production of at least 18 million. We don't know anything about the marketing expenses. So investment, as far as we know, is 18 million. The break-even point just for that would be 45 million when you do 2.5. Bare minimum would have to have done 36 million. So this is done well, very well. So yeah, largely to do with just the fact that it's super small budgeted, also notable IP name. So yeah, so yeah, it also just goes to show you again that horror is where things are for the future. When you go for low scale, usually, and it's when it's within the horror genre, usually you get larger turnouts than you would for other things that we just illustrated, like Superman. So it's the future, and this is more proof to that. And again, it's a notable IP, notable film from the 90s, at least in the horror genre. So yeah, did pretty well. And I'm not really all that surprised given how much it's cost purely on a production. So all right, coming out the same weekend as this, we have Smurfs. Me and my brother saw this. It was not good. Came out the same weekend as I Know What You Did Last Summer, distributed by Paramount. And yeah, this hasn't done all too well. So far, it's grossed $89.7 million. Has a production of at least 58 million. We don't know anything about the marketing expenses on this one, at least as far as I've read. So investment sitting at 58 million. Break even point, if you times it by 2.5, it'd be $145 million. Bare minimum, the film would need to do at least 116 million in order to be profitable. I don't think that's going to be the case for this. I think it might get as high as 100 million at this point. But I don't think that you're gonna see it, I don't think it's gonna get any bigger than that. Um, I am surprised that it's gotten as high as 90 million, because I didn't think it would have larger attention. But colorful and somewhat animated. I mean, you'll probably get more attention with the kids. But yeah, I don't see it getting any higher than maybe like 100 million. So it's not going to be a massive loss for the company, but definitely, I definitely definitely not hitting the marks that it should be hitting. Like I said, it should be hitting like 145. A bare minimum, it should get 116 in order to be profitable. So it'll be considered probably a minor failure, but I seriously doubt, given the reception, that they're going to want to move forward with another film anytime soon. and just judging by a pretty minuscule box office take, I think that it's gonna probably keep this franchise at bay for probably a couple of years. That's at least my opinion. So, also coming out the same weekend, we had Eddington. I actually really enjoyed this film. I know it has divisive nature to it, but I thought it was actually pretty good. Distributed through A24, and yeah, this has not done all that well. This has a gross of 10.5 million, production cost at least 25 million, no disclosure of marketing expenses. So just with the 25 million, it would need to break even at least 62.5 million, bare minimum at least 50 million. So yeah, so this is not done well. And I understand why, because largely of the divisive nature the film has. And, as what the film is discussing, I can understand why a lot of people would also be hesitant to check this out because of just, the divisive nature, the political climate that it's wishing to inhabit. I understand the resistance that a lot of people may have to have checked this out. There also wasn't a lot of marketing for this. So, because they had to contend with Smurfs and I Know What You Did Last Summer. So, so they didn't have a lot of room to market. At least it didn't seem as that. I didn't remember seeing much for this. Um, so, yeah, so I understand why this didn't do all that well. Uh, interesting enough with Joaquin Phoenix, I think this is like what the third bomb that he's had because we had Joker, of course, Folia Dukes, Beau is Afraid, the year before I think Joker, Folia Dukes, and now this. So but he's doing his own thing, and I admire that. I admire that he's at least doing his own thing, and it's not just worrying about trying to make films that cater to larger audiences. He's just purely doing what he believes is good, and I can appreciate that. And a film like Eddington, I can appreciate. Um, so, but yeah, I understand why because of just what it literally is. I can understand why a lot of people probably just decided not to check it out. And also when you have larger IPs like Smurfs and I Know What You Did Last Summer taking up the big screens, I can understand why Eddington would fall short. So. Speaking of falling short, and I believe the last film that we're going to be discussing today is, of course, the Fantastic Four. We did a review for this on, I believe I did a review, or yeah, me and my brother both did a review. This came out on July 25th, just of course distributed through Disney, and yeah, not doing great. This is coming off the second weekend, so total gross so far $372 million. Production is at bare minimum 200 million, but of course, if you've been reading the articles, Disney's not giving out solid numbers for this. I think there's just people from different outlets saying it's more than 200 million. So we don't have any solid numbers that are. For some reason, Disney doesn't want to disclose those numbers. Um, Marketing costs are at least 100 million because we know Marvel just is who they are. They always do at least 100 million for their films. That's not been confirmed, but I can at least I feel confident in saying that just because of the nature of how they operate, Marvel. Uh, Investment then would be put at least 300 million. So break even point for the company standard, I would think would be at least $900 million. But bare minimum, the film would have to do at least 600 million. So uh, it's hard to say. I would not be shocked if this does not hit that $600 million mark. Um, but at the same time, I would not be surprised if that's as high as it actually gets because it had a steep drop off the second weekend. So uh, we'll see. We'll see. It's been a really bad year for Marvel. I mean, none of their films are going to make money. I doubt that this is going to be amount to much. I think at best, at this point, this is probably going to hit like 550, 500 to 550, maybe 600 million. But I don't think in Marvel's eyes that's going to be considered much. Um, I mean, by comparison, what's come out this year with Captain America and Thunderbolts, they might see this as a positive thing, but I really don't think that there's anything to really be happy about once you really put it all in perspective, um, and and like with reports, the production could be a lot higher than it is a lot higher. We just don't know the number. Um, so this probably has to do even more. So, like there's potential this has to do at least 1 billion, in terms of what the company standard would have been. And then bare minimum, this film would have to maybe do like 700 million. And I can guarantee that this film's not going to do $700 million. No way. Especially with the drop off that's happened this weekend. I doubt that that's going to be the case. So, um, I think bare minimum, I think this film is heading for 500 or 550, but I don't think that's a good thing when you think about just how much this thing's cost. Um, so yeah, it's just turned into a pretty just grim year for Marvel. They're gonna have a better year next year because they have Spider-Man coming out, they have Avengers coming out. So this is it's the worst year for Marvel. It's not sugarcoating it at all. Um, it's just to say that there are brighter things in the future, but it also illustrates again fatigue. It illustrates just a unwillingness to try out new things because people are way more comfortable with familiarity than they are with anything else. Um, yeah, it's just the way it is now, and Fantastic Four also as a brand has gotten a negative reception over the years. It's not well liked because of the films that have come out in the past. So there were a lot of things going against it, and I thought it would be doing a lot better because this had more positive reception attached to it. But then you see that people just didn't really care to really come back to see it. So it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, and I think that Marvel is just happy to get out of this year, and they're ready to move on to 2026. That's my feeling on that. So, but yeah, so if you've been counting, that is 6 films, 6 major films that came out in July, and of those 6, only 2 of them did well. Jurassic World Rebirth, like I said, I don't think the company is particularly happy with the number that it's going to be hitting, but just by the math, it does measure up. It does end up becoming successful. I Know What You Did Last Summer, of course, did very well. Just very small budgeted, but that's really it. I mean, we have Superman, which is pretty much posing to be a failure. Smurfs posing to be a failure. Eddington already being a failure. Fantastic Four posing to be a failure. So yeah, man. I mean, it just illustrates that this year has not been great, And as per where we are right now, we have now 16 films that have done well so far this year compared to the 47 that have not done well. So, yeah, dude, it is still a grim year. There are some bright spots, but it is small compared to the failures that are on the right. So yeah, I mean, it's just very illustrative of just how people are today. It's just with the rise of streaming, with the very fickle nature that is coming with audience members. It's just becoming very very difficult for films, and also again largely to do with production. How things are budgeted, how much investments are. It is I did a video just about how massive investments have gotten this year. We've had Mission Impossible, which is 500 million. When you put it all together, so there's a lot of reshaping and a lot of reworking that needs to take place within Hollywood, and hopefully next year we'll see that. Hopefully by 2026, 2027, we'll see them take a step back. Maybe not everything that is a major IP has to be given 100 to 200 million dollars. Things can maybe be scaled back. Hopefully. I mean, we'll see. I mean, it absolutely needs to be scaled back because audiences are not coming to the theater as much as they used to because of just the introduction of streaming and the fact that movies can go on streaming a hell of a lot sooner because of that, smaller theatrical window. So, but yeah, another down month. I mean, it's been getting kind of redundant in saying that, but it's just the way things are now, and we'll see how August pans out. I mean, August doesn't have a lot of major hitters coming out, so we'll see. I'm expecting that to be another down month as well. But we'll see how that all shapes up. But you guys, what are your thoughts about how you felt about July? If you guys saw any of these films, let me know your thoughts there. How do you feel the future looks for films like Superman and Fantastic Four? Do you guys think that they will end up becoming profitable? I doubt it. Um, and what are your guys' predictions for August? What films do you guys feel like are going to do great? What films do you feel like are not going to do so great? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.